What up, y'all? St. Pete. I'm going to read a little something that I wrote today. So, I'm going to try and be nice about this and not do this in a mean spirit because I feel like most of these virtue signalers want to be on the right side of things. But due to the state sponsored indoctrination camps called schools and state sponsored corporate media, people don't know what to think or how to think. With that being said, I wish not to separate or divide us more. I wish not to offend you. I am only hoping that you didn't realize the gravity of your actions and I was able to activate your spirit. I hope you realize, despite what you've been told, that you are a powerful individual and your actions shape the future of the world. To my fellow Americans of all races, color, and creeds, until we get out of this burning house called our country, let us not worry how I woke you up. Let us not fight over furniture arrangements until we safely escape this dire situation, and then, and only then, we can begin to heal the dark parts of our history. I want to make myself clear what I mean when I say I am against government. I am against the people running the current government. Our government is the Constitution, not the corrupt officials running it into the ground on purpose because they hate how it guarantees individual rights. That's why we are never taught the Constitution in depth at school. I mean, for all the rah-rah that this is the greatest nation of the world, and I think we have the potential to be that, but the only thing that gives us that potential to be great and different from the rest of the world is our Constitution and the unalienable individual rights it guarantees. It's evident to me that the core of our culture is given but a surface glance here and there without any real zeal throughout our years in school screams to the high heavens that understanding, understanding, and overstanding what our rights are was of no concern. Parents should be encouraged to teach the Constitution to their children before they even start schooling so they can know what makes this country different from the rest of the world. And what makes us different from the rest of the world is that we are guaranteed unalienable rights from our Creator, not man. This would imply that the parents would have to know what them rights are themselves. And sad to say, few, if any, can even explain what a right is. I know that if I didn't spend countless hours studying what rights are, I wouldn't know either. So if you're sitting there telling me that you can explain what rights are without the countless hours of study, I am calling your bluff and I challenge you to a duel. Knowing our rights is the mortar of culture building. The rights declared in the Declaration of Independence build the foundation to make this country potentially great. Because a solid foundation of what rights actually are was not properly explained and taught, yet we kept having it beat into our heads that this is the greatest nation without any deep knowledge to what we actually have, has caused confusion and has had dire consequences for the people's state of mind. That lack of knowledge of what our rights are has allowed the dark parts of our history to define the totality of the past and any possible future. The dark parts of our history have been wielded like a weapon by the enemy to make people question whether or not they should even defend what America stands for. The powers that shouldn't be know that truth can only be temporarily suspended, like an airplane can only temporarily suspend the law of gravity. This is natural law. And there is no breaking natural law without consequences. It's called karma. They knew eventually the people would find out that FDR and Washington, D.C. knew Japan was planning an attack on Pearl Harbor. They knew we would find out the Gulf of Tonkin incident that launched us into Vietnam and caused hundreds of thousands of lives would be exposed as never having took place. They knew we would find out Wall Street, with our tax dollars, funded Hitler and the Bolsheviks that led to the wholesale slaughter of millions of people. They knew we'd find out there were no WMDs that led to poor and middle class Americans and countless Iraqis losing their lives, minds, and souls. They knew we'd find out the Spanish-American War, along with every other major war, could have been prevented with diplomacy, but instead instigated with lies. They knew we'd find out the countless experiments done on Americans of every race when Communist Clinton confessed to it during his presidency. They knew we'd find out about the Tuskegee experiments on black Americans. They knew we'd find out CIA and FBI assassinated every real black leader and every real white leader, only to replace them with their puppets. They knew we'd find out the CIA brought crack into the black community to purposefully bring the black neighborhoods to their current condition. They knew we'd find out they brought heroin and fentanyl into the country after they got countless people hooked on Oxycontin by saying the pills are not addicting. They knew we would find out the whole pandemic was purposefully intensified to push their Great Reset agenda further along, and the list goes on and on and on and on of problem, reaction, solution. They know the truth will always be revealed because, unlike us, they know natural law is always in effect, and whatever is done in the dark will come to the light. They trick us into believing that all these lies and deceptions by government will go away if we willingly submit our God-given rights to them. If they succeed in convincing us to get rid of our borders and sovereignty, and convince us our Constitution and individual rights is old and outdated, there's nothing left standing in the way of global tyranny. They planned on us finding out how we've been betrayed. They are counting on complete demoralization. They are counting on Biden embarrassing us into submission. They are counting on people throwing their hands up and just giving up. They want us to have complete distrust for our constitutional government so they could swoop in like some fake-ass heroes and offer the solution to all this corruption, which will be no solution at all. In fact, it will be turning the planet into an open-air prison. The rest of the world falls when America falls. You being born in the only country ever to say, fuck a king and queen, every man is to be treated equally, you by default have a responsibility to stand for freedom no matter the cost to your comfortability. They want us to hate police. Why do you think they train them the way they do? The goal is to use all these situations to prove their erroneous case that when you give people freedom, chaos emerges. And you know what? It's fucking working. It's working because the American people have not built up a solid cultural foundation. I'll repeat, our culture here in America is laid out in the Constitution that every person is guaranteed individual, unalienable rights from their creator, period, end of story. The fact I hear people saying, for the greater good of all, flies in the face of individual rights and American culture. The fact they have and continue to remove God from daily life in America and made it seem irrational to put your life in God's hands because they convinced you to believe that belief in God equates to believing in some man-made organization like the corrupt church or corrupt religions. When that is the furthest thing from the truth. The fact people been convinced God should be removed from daily life has created a power vacuum that man will gladly fill. When we allow man to replace God as the arbiter of law, we get despots and tyrants. We have reached the tipping point, folks, and you must make a choice between freedom or slavery. So when I see this virtue signaling with the mandates, cringes me to the core. You got people that got the jab, and when they get around their friends who won't comply with the mandates and face real life repercussions, these virtue signalers say, even though I got the jab, I'm against the mandates, I'm with you, and act like it's as serious to them as it is to us. That's great if you're willing to follow through and hold the line with us. But what message are you sending when you aren't willing to make sacrifices to your comfortability? They say, I only got the jab for the greater good of made up health reasons. Then you see these same people who claim to be against mandates and only got the jab for health reasons going to sporting events, concerts, restaurants that have mandates. Hypocrites. If you claim to have only got it for health reasons, but then post pics on social media having a good old time at events that require mandates that your friends can no longer go to, is disrespectful, and you have chosen your side. To add insult to injury, these virtue signalers tend to be social justice warriors, but only for the causes Hollywood and big tech get behind. They pretend to be socially conscious against the establishment, but are echo chambers of the corporate media. If you truly got the jab for health reasons, then you should have no problem standing side by side with those who chose not to get it by not participating or supporting any event that requires it. I suspect the health reason is not the real reason you got it. I suspect you got it because your own selfish needs come first, while claiming to have the belief of sacrifice for the greater good. While the world is descending into Nazi Germany, let me see your papers, in a global open-air prison, you people are talking about traveling, fun vacations, and making your pathetic, hyper-individualized life of complete comfort more important than standing up to tyranny. Well then, you're part of the clown show, and have chosen the wrong side of history, regardless of how all this turns out. Just remember, if this gets worse, and it will if people put their comfort over freedom, when the children of future generations ask, what were you doing when all this tyranny was swallowing the world? Be sure to tell them that you lack testicular fortitude and that your pathetic, selfish needs came before freedom. St. Pete, I'm out. Peace.